So we're gonna. Hey guys, Crystal here, and yes, I want to talk vampires. I want to talk vampire tropes. I want to ramble on minorly and coherently about the thing that I love to write about the most. Now, vampires as a whole are like this big of a topic. I say with my hands staying in frame because what I really want to do is this. And I want to make a video that's this. Manageable, bite-sized, and easy to watch. So, we're going to talk about vampires and Project Incarnate and how I picked and pulled and prodded some of my favorite vampire rules from all of my favorite vampire media. I like the idea of super strength. I like the idea of speed. Vampires are not human. They are given these different abilities. And that's like the cornerstone of vampire in all of the media that I have ever absorbed is the strength and the speed. So I figured that is a vampire staple. So I kept it. Almost every show and book I've read has had the speed and the strength in some form. Now there is one show that did speed very funny because they had the vampire run in mostly regular speed, but they had whooshy speedy music to make you think they were faster. The show is very low budget, but it is also one of my guilty pleasures, just like every other vampire cop show. We're talking about Moonlight, Forever Night, and Blood Ties. They are my top 3 favorites. 100% guilty pleasure because cop shows, serials are they're okay. I like them. Another thing I like is the Sire Bond. It's definitely from Forever Night, and a bunch of different other media that I can't seem to think of right now. Where a sire will always know where the child is, no matter what. Some shows have like a distance meter, where it's like once you get close, then you know, and if you don't, then you don't. True Blood was another good one for it, where a sire could feel the fledgling's death, and vice versa. Forever Night was good for that. We had the sire character Lacroix always finding his children, and they kind of hint at it's like after his death, where it's like I feel like he's been dead for so long, and yet I feel those strings in the back of my head being plucked. Like somehow I know he's still alive. Other ones do it as that show that I mentioned in my last video where I was talking about my October plans. But that one's not good, and we're not going to mention it here because I'm going to try to be as positive as I can, and not rant about that. Editing Crystal here. One thing I wanted to mention is that another thing for Project Incarnate vampires is the vampires have this ability to assert their will on their fledgling, on their child. So it's like, I am the one that made you, so you must obey. It is not something that is active at all times. It is something that, just you piss your sire off and your sire's going to pull rank sort of deal, which is one thing I don't like about the Vampire Diaries use of the Sire Bond, because it's unconscious. It's more of treated as the, hey, I really respect this person, or this person did something really good for me, like saved my life, so I'm going to do whatever I can to help them out. And I find that destroys character relationships, because character A is only helping character B because of this mystical connection between them, and not so much that there is an established relationship. And once they find out that that established relationship is fake, is based on this mysticism, then you lose that character connection. And in some respects, like we're talking about Klaus and his children, yeah, it is a bad thing because he's a monster. And one of the things I don't like is another relationship, which is, I know, also a kind of crappy relationship. And it's like, well, I've now fallen for this person, but it's only because of the Sire Bond. So once that is destroyed, then I think I'm rambling. You lose that character balance, relationship-ness. Also, I realize that this is usually why people write a script, but since I don't follow a script anyway, I just write bullet points of what I want to talk about. I forgot that I also wanted to mention that the vampires in Project Incarnate have a telepathic ability between them, that they can communicate without talking, because that's the definition of telepathic. Why am I trying to explain it? It's also the same with another connection mechanic that I have, which is a blood bond. It sort of works almost the same way as the Sire Bond, with the exception of the obedience thing that I just mentioned. Okay, and we'll get back to the video. I'm a big, another thing I really enjoy is what I call immortal does not mean unstoppable, and this leads to vampire poisons. For Project Incarnate vampires, it's silver. It is a paralytic. It weakens you. If you get it in your system, you're going to go down. It makes things woobly. Moonlight was big for that one. I know, like, there's some controversy between silver being a werewolf thing or a vampire thing. And Project Incarnate, it's both. For werewolves, it uses a poison. It can burn. I think, actually, in Project Incarnate, it burns too, now that I think about it. But if you get it, like, if you ingest it, it's going to poison you. It's going to suck. Definitely a bad time. I mean, silver poisons humans, too, if you ingest. Like, don't eat silver. Just don't do it. Another thing I like is the Paralytic steak. Moonlight and Vampire Masquerade definitely were big on this one. A lot of vampire media does do it as the final death. True Blood has them explode into goo, which boggles my brains. I think it's most common to dust them. Buffy is good for that. Vampire Diaries has them kind of collapse and decay, I think. Editing me to the rescue again. In Vampire Diaries, when a vampire is staked, they get all gray and veiny and die. There is no decay or collapsing or becoming anything less than a corpse that is gray and veiny. But for my vampires, we're just talking about you just paralyze them, you take it out, they'll come back. A la Vampire the Masquerade and Moonlight. Sunlight is another one of those ones that kind of gets a little controversial. I'm not even sure. I'm using the word controversial very lightly. Where most media, so you have Nosferatu, Dracula, Buffy, True Blood, Vampire Diaries, all have the sun, like, insta-death. You go out, you go... That leads to some really awkward filming for a lot of people, a lot of movie directors, and this is where you get the constant dark movie, where you cannot see what's going on, or everything is blue. I'm looking at you, Underworld, the first movie, or the first Underworld movie, however you want to word that. So I like a lot like Moonlight has it, where it's the vampires, they feel weak when they're in the sun. A little bit is too much, but what I'm doing for Project Incarnate is a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B. If you are a vampire from a year up until, like, your first 100, sun is bad. You're gonna go up like a Roman torch, or at least like a candle, or it's just gonna be a rough time. But as you progress after that 100, your body starts kind of, like, acclimating to it, where you can be out for hours and you only start burning after a certain point. You will still burn. Like, that's just gonna happen. But as you get older as a vampire, the sun affects you a lot. It takes longer. So it's just more of a mild inconvenience to the really old. I have a few vampires who are over 500 and over 600, where it's just like, yeah, no, I'm just gonna go, like, spend an hour working some serious magic ritual, and you come back and he's got a sunburn. Like, that's it. Like, our type of sunburn. Another vampire trope I was struggling with was the religious object. A lot of media treats it because vampires are cursed monsters, so they are affront to God, so therefore the objects of God harm them. So crosses, holy water, stuff like that. In Project Incarnate, it's kind of the same thing, but it's more magic based, where you have these priests and their faith allows these things to weaken a vampire. And it's because of their faith being so powerful that is why it's a problem. It's not so much the object itself, but it's the belief in the object. And in the it's almost like the reverse is true as well. New vampires, like let's say you just get turned yesterday and you hold a cross for the first time. You believe, like from all of the media that you've taken in within your mortal life, that crosses should hurt. Well, you believe, therefore it happens. It's almost like a self-actualization in a way. I was kind of like a big fan of that, not because I've watched way too much Lucifer, but it's all. I also look at it from Vampire the Masquerade, where it's the priests have this faith and they wield the faith like a weapon. I thought that was a fascinating take on it. Instead of the you are cursed by God, I decided to take it more of a faith-based. The invitation rule. The invitation rule is one of my favorites to protect my mortal characters. I am a big fan of monsters being monsters. There is one faction in Project Incarnate that is evil. They host feeding parties where they invite a bunch of humans into these locations, masquerading as a rave or a nightclub. And the vampires use their mind powers and their magic to subdue and eat these people. Some people go home happy because fighting is pleasurable to some folk. The bad vampires are not exactly keen on the whole, not pain because they're monsters and monsters just gotta eat. So also many vampires do die. That is my bad side. I do have the good faction, which is for the most part of my Project Incarnate vampire main characters cast. NPCs, for lack of a better way to put it. Consent is sexy, and there is a donor program, and there is systems set up so everyone has a choice if they're going to be bitten or not. Too bad the current society in Project Incarnate is mostly ruled by the monsters, but the good guys are different. So the invite rule: if you stay within your home, you are safe. A vampire cannot enter a residence without being invited in. Of course, there is still the mind powers of the bad guys, so it can happen, but it's not very likely, because everybody needs a place to feel safe. This does not work for public buildings, though. There was an episode of Buffy where Angel was able to walk into a school because the sign said, "Welcome all ye to seek knowledge" in Latin. Regardless, I'm not 100% sure if that's actually true. I never looked at the Latin. But it is a public building, so there should not be an invitation rule required, because it is public. At least that's my belief over here. Another thing I should have actually said this earlier when I was talking about poisons. One thing I did take out of my vampire mythos is garlic. Garlic tastes good on pizza. I like garlic bread, and since my vampires can also eat, bodies work very well, provided there is blood in the system. You can pretty much blend into human society as long as you keep your vampire hunger in check. So, garlic bread. I am never going to rob a single person of garlic bread ever. Just gonna throw that out there. So, that does not exist in my world, because vamps gotta eat. Since I am talking about food now, I will say that older vampires, much like, for example, Darian, the mentor character, he is a traditionalist, so he does not eat. Just because he doesn't want to and it's not required. I mean, that's like me in the summer. I don't eat much. Another thing I like is vampire magic. In Vampire the Masquerade, there is a clan called the Tremere, and they can use blood magic powers to do some things. I thought that was brilliant because I like magic. So there is one clan, I think I've talked about the clan magic in a previous video. If I haven't, then oops. Where they can use blood magic to do certain things. Other vampires can wield shadows to create monsters. There are vampires that can... There is even a god that has fire immunity, so at least the elders of that clan are immune to fire. Man, vampires have a range of magic. Also, since magic does exist in my world, and humans learn magic as well, if you're a human who knew magic, and you become a vampire, then you can still use the magic you learned as a human. It just, might have an extra cost to it because you're an immortal being. Magic is a little weird in my world, but I like it. Pretty much it in terms of my vampire tropes. Considering doing a werewolf one, but I'm not sure because werewolves are cool. But I return to end the video. The outro that I recorded was a little bad. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, drop a like. If I missed any vampire tropes, drop it down below. If you have a favorite vampire trope, drop it down below. I'm probably going to do a sequel for more of a narrative tropes and less of an ability tropes video. I think. Possibly. Because there are some other things I want to talk about, but this is the frame in which the video appeared in my brain. So here we are. I'll be streaming on Monday on YouTube at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I have yet to decide what it is I'm doing, but there will be another video next week framing my plans because I am forcing myself to make a decision as of Halloween. So, yes, keep an eye out for that. I will be streaming with the Chaos Queens on Halloween at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time with the lovely, lovely people who I've already just said, and what am I even... This outro is not doing any better. But check us all out on Halloween. It's going to be fun. And until next time, thank you all so very much for watching. I love y'all very, very much and appreciate every single one of you. We will see you guys in the next video. Bye!